March 1943, Duxford Airfield, England. The morning fog still clings to the grass as Captain Harold Hal Johnson walks across the tarmac toward his new assignment. Behind him, parked in neat rows, are the sleek P-38 Lightnings and the elegant Spitfires, aircraft that look like they were born to dance in the sky. Ahead of him sits something else entirely. It squats on the runway like an angry toad. 7 tons of metal that seems to violate every principle of aerodynamics. Johnson learned at flight school. The fuselage is massive, barrel-shaped, almost comically fat. The cockpit sits so far back it looks like an afterthought. A tiny bubble perched on top of an enormous radial engine cowling. The wings seem stubby, inadequate for the bloated body they're trying to support. "That's the P-47 Thunderbolt," his commanding officer says, noting Johnson's expression. "You'll be flying her." Johnson's response is immediate and visceral. "Sir, with all due respect, that looks like a milk jug with wings." The nickname spreads through the squadron like wildfire. The jug. Within days, every P-47 pilot in England is using it. Some call it the 7-ton milk bottle. Others prefer the flying bathtub. A few bitter souls simply call it the beast. The reaction isn't just aesthetic, it's professional horror. These are fighter pilots, men who have trained their entire lives for the ballet of aerial combat. They've studied the great aces, read about the legendary dogfights of World War I, dreamed of graceful turns and elegant maneuvers. The P-47 Thunderbolt looks like it couldn't dogfight its way out of a hangar. Lieutenant Robert S. Johnson, who will become one of the war's greatest aces, writes home to his parents. "They've assigned me to fly a plane that weighs as much as a small truck. I honestly don't know if this thing can even get off the ground, much less fight. I requested a transfer to P-51S. They denied it. I think they're trying to get me killed." The specifications only reinforce the horror. Empty weight, 10,000 pounds. Loaded weight, 14,000 pounds. Nearly 7 tons. Compare that to the Spitfire, at 5,000 pounds, or the German Messerschmitt Bf 109, at 5,500 pounds. The P-47 is literally twice as heavy as its enemies. Wing loading, the critical measurement of how much weight each square foot of wing must support, is a ponderous 36 pounds per square foot. The Spitfire's is 25. In the turning dogfights that every pilot has trained for, the P-47 will be hopelessly outmatched. A Messerschmitt pilot could fly circles around it. Literally. The complaints flood up the chain of command. Squadron commanders report morale problems. Pilots are requesting transfers en masse. Some threaten to resign their commissions rather than fly that death trap. The 56th Fighter Group, the first unit fully equipped with P-47s, has a mutiny brewing. Colonel Hubert Hub Zempe, commander of the 56th, calls his pilots together for a brutally honest meeting. "Gentlemen, I know what you think of this aircraft. I thought the same thing when I first saw it. But we have a job to do, and this is the plane we have to do it with. So we're going to learn to fly it, and we're going to learn to fight in it." The first training flights do nothing to improve morale. The P-47 is everything the pilots feared. It's heavy, it's sluggish in turns. The enormous Pratt & Whitney R2800 engine, all 2,000 horsepower of it, sits in front of the cockpit like a wall, blocking the pilot's forward view during takeoff and landing. Visibility is terrible. The control stick requires significant force to move at low speeds. Everything about it feels wrong. But there's something else, something the pilots notice but don't yet understand. When you push the throttle forward, the P-47 doesn't just accelerate, it surges. The power is almost frightening. And when you point the nose down, even slightly, the aircraft picks up speed at an alarming rate. The weight, the very thing they hate, gives it momentum that seems unstoppable. It flies like a brick, one pilot reports. But it's a brick that accelerates like it's being fired from a cannon. The mechanics love it though. While pilots complain, the ground crews are discovering something remarkable. The R2800 engine, for all its size, is reliable. Incredibly reliable. It doesn't overheat. It doesn't quit. It runs and runs and runs. The aircraft systems are simple, robust, overbuilt. There are redundancies everywhere. If one system fails, there's usually a backup. These jugs are built like tanks. Chief Mechanic Sergeant Mike Arcangeli tells his crew, "I've worked on P-38s, P-40s, even some captured German planes. Nothing's built like this. It's like they designed it to take a beating." They have no idea how prophetic those words will be. To understand why the P-47 seemed so wrong to American pilots, you need to understand the religion of fighter aviation in 1943. It was a faith built on speed, agility, and the turning fight. The doctrine came from World War I, from the legendary aces like von Richthofen and Eddie Rickenbacker. The rules were sacred. Get on your enemy's tail. Outturn him. Stay in the horizontal plane. The pilot, who could turn tightest, who could keep his nose pointed at the enemy in a swirling dogfight, was the pilot who survived. Every fighter aircraft of the era was designed with this in mind. The British Spitfire could turn on a dime, its elliptical wings giving it legendary maneuverability. The German Bf 109 was light and nimble. Even the American P-51 Mustang, when it finally arrived, was sleek and agile. The Luftwaffe's fighter pilots were the masters of this art. By 1943, they were the most experienced fighter pilots in the world, veterans of the Battle of Britain, the Eastern Front, and North Africa. They flew aircraft specifically designed for turning combat, the Messerschmitt Bf 109G and the Focke-Wulf Fulm 190. The Focke-Wulf 190 was particularly fearsome. It was faster than the Spitfire, more heavily armed, and could outroll anything in the sky. Luftwaffe pilots called it Würger, the Shrike, a bird of prey. When it first appeared in combat in 1941, it absolutely dominated Allied fighters. Spitfire pilots were being shot down in droves. German fighter tactics were refined to perfection. The Schwarm formation, a finger four pattern that allowed mutual support while maintaining flexibility. The bounce, diving from altitude to build speed, making a single devastating pass, then climbing back to safety. The scissors, a defensive maneuver where the hunted becomes the hunter through a series of alternating turns. This was fighter combat as understood in 1943. It was about finesse, about flying skill, about the dance. And then this fat American milk jug showed up. Major Gerhard Schupfel, a Luftwaffe ace with 40 kills, saw his first P-47 in May 1943 during a bomber escort mission. His immediate assessment, recorded in his combat diary, drips with contempt. The Americans have produced a fighter that embodies everything wrong with their approach to war. It is grotesquely large, clearly overweight, and appears to have the aerodynamic efficiency of a concrete block. Its radial engine, like a bomber's, protrudes absurdly. This will be the easiest kill of the war. Luftwaffe intelligence officers circulated a tactical assessment that would prove to be one of the war's great miscalculations. The report noted that the P-47's excessive weight, approximately double that of the Bf 109, would result in poor turning ability and make it unable to compete in horizontal maneuvering. The climb rate was deemed adequate at best, inferior to the Focke-Wulf 190. German analysts recommended forcing the P-47 into turning combat, using superior German agility to achieve tail position. Most damning of all, the threat level was assessed as low, with the P-47 deemed a suitable target for new pilots to build confidence. The last line is particularly telling. The Luftwaffe considered the P-47 such an easy target that they recommended it for rookie pilots still learning to fight. Colonel Johannes Mackie Steinhoff, one of Germany's most respected fighter leaders, was more cautious but still dismissive. The P-47 represents American industrial thinking. Throw metal at the problem. But air combat is not decided by weight. It is decided by skill, by tactics, by the quality of the pilot, and the responsiveness of his machine. The P-47 violates the fundamental principles of fighter design. It will perform adequately in the hands of their best pilots, but it will never be a true fighter. This wasn't just German arrogance. British pilots, America's allies, shared the skepticism. RAF squadron leader Johnny Johnson, Britain's top ace, flew against both the F-190 and alongside P-47s. His assessment was polite, but clear. The Thunderbolt is a remarkable piece of engineering, but in a turning fight against a 190, I'd rather be in a Spitfire. The Yank pilots are brave, but they're flying the wrong aircraft for the job. Even within the US Army Air Forces, there was a faction that believed the P-47 was a mistake. They pushed for the P-51 Mustang, which was lighter, faster at altitude, and more elegant in its design. The P-51 looked like a fighter should look. The P-47 looked like someone had strapped wings to a water heater. The conventional wisdom was universal. Fighter combat is about the turn. The plane that turns best wins. The P-47 cannot turn. Therefore, the P-47 will lose. They were right about one thing. The P-47 couldn't turn, but they were catastrophically wrong about what that would mean. What the Luftwaffe intelligence officers didn't know, what nobody fully understood until the bullets started flying, was that the P-47 wasn't designed to win the old war. It was designed to win a new kind of war. A war that hadn't been fully theorized yet. A war of energy, of power, of systematic destruction. At the heart of the Thunderbolt sat the Pratt & Whitney R2800 Double Wasp, and it was a masterpiece of American engineering. 18 cylinders, arranged in 2 radial rows, producing 2,000 horsepower at sea level, and thanks to an advanced turbocharger, maintaining that power all the way up to 30,000 feet. This was more power than most bombers had. This was power that could move mountains. But it wasn't just the engine. It was what the Americans did with all that power. Chief designer Alexander Veli at Republic Aviation had been given a simple directive: build a fighter around the R2800 engine and make sure the pilot comes home. Everything else was secondary. Veli's team didn't try to make the plane light. They made it strong. The airframe was massively overbuilt. Where other fighters used thin aluminum skin and minimal internal structure, the P-47 had thick skin and robust ribbing. The wings weren't just strong enough to handle normal flight loads. They were strong enough to handle dive speeds that would tear other aircraft apart. The fuselage was a metal cocoon. And then there was the armor. So much armor. Behind the pilot's head sat a thick steel plate. In front of him, bulletproof glass, genuine armor plate glass an inch thick. Beneath him, another steel plate to protect from ground fire. The oil cooler, the engine, everywhere a bullet might cause a critical failure, there was protection. The fuel tanks were self-sealing, using a rubber compound that would automatically seal bullet holes. In combat, this meant a P-47 could take dozens of hits to its fuel system and keep flying. For comparison, a single incendiary round in a Messerschmitt Bf-109's fuel tank would turn the entire aircraft into a fireball. The 8 M2 Browning, 50 caliber machine guns were overkill by European standards. 4 guns was normal, 6 was heavy, 8 was absurd. But those 8 guns, synchronized to fire through the propeller arc, could put out 4,800 rounds per minute. A 2-second burst meant 160 heavy slugs in the air. Anything they hit disintegrated. We built the P-47 on a simple philosophy, Veli later explained. We assumed the pilot would get shot at. We assumed the aircraft would take damage. We designed it to absorb that damage and bring the pilot home. Everything else, speed, maneuverability, even range, was secondary to survival. This philosophy extended to every system. The R2800 engine was air-cooled, not liquid-cooled. This was critical. A liquid-cooled engine, like in the P-51 Mustang or the German Bf-109, had coolant lines running through the aircraft. One bullet in those lines, and the engine would overheat in minutes. You were going down. The R2800 had no coolant lines. You could shoot out 2, 3, even 4 cylinders, and the engine would keep running on the remaining 14. Pilots reported bringing home P-47s with entire cylinders missing, oil streaming from the cowling, and the engine still roaring. The turbocharger system was another marvel. Most fighters lost power as they climbed. The air got thinner, and engines couldn't breathe. The P-47's turbocharger compressed that thin air, feeding the engine the oxygen it needed. At 25,000 feet, where a Bf-109 was gasping, the P-47 was still producing nearly full power. This meant something the Luftwaffe pilots didn't expect. The P-47 was faster than them at altitude, significantly faster. At 30,000 feet, a P-47 could reach 433 miles per hour. The Messerschmitt Bf-109G topped out at 385 miles per hour at that altitude. The vaunted Focke-Wulf 190 was even slower. In the high-altitude environment where most combat occurred, the American milk jug was the fastest thing in the sky. But the real secret, the thing that would change everything, was the dive speed. Republic's engineers had stress-tested the P-47's airframe to extreme levels. They certified it for dives exceeding 550 miles per hour. At the time, this was nearly incomprehensible. Most fighters would experience control flutter, a violent shaking, at speeds over 450 miles per hour. Some would break apart. The P-47, with its massive weight and overbuilt structure, just punched through the air. In a dive, it was faster than anything else with a propeller, faster than the Bf-109, faster than the F-190, faster than the Spitfire. Hell, later in the war, diving P-47s would outrun the early German Me-262 jets. That weight, the thing every pilot hated, became a weapon. Captain Gerald Johnson, 56th Fighter Group, wrote in his diary after his first real combat mission, "I always thought the weight was a curse. Today, I learned it's a gift. We bounced some 109s from 28,000 feet. I pushed the nose over, and that jug accelerated like nothing I've ever felt. By the time I was at 20,000 feet, I was doing over 500 miles per hour. The 109 I was chasing tried to dive away. He couldn't. I closed on him like he was standing still, fired a 2-second burst. He came apart. The pieces came apart. The jug isn't a fighter. It's a meteor with guns." April 15, 1943. 25,000 feet above the Dutch coast, Lieutenant Robert S. Johnson of the 61st Fighter Squadron is flying his 11th combat mission. His P-47, all hell feels heavy beneath him. Below he can see the contrails of B-17 bombers they're escorting. Above, a crystal blue sky that seems peaceful, innocent. Then the call crackles over the radio, "Bandits, 10 o'clock high." Johnson's stomach clenches. Messerschmitt Bf-109, 6 of them, diving from the sun. This is it, the nightmare every P-47 pilot has feared. A diving attack by nimble German fighters who will then force them into a turning dogfight where the heavy American fighters will be slaughtered. The 109s come screaming down, guns blazing. Johnson can see the tracer rounds, little fireflies of death, arcing toward him. The instinct is to turn, to try to evade, to dogfight. But Johnson remembers his training, the new tactics they've been drilling. Don't turn. Don't fight their fight. He pushes the stick forward, nose down, throttle to the firewall. The P-47 responds with that now familiar surge of power. The enormous R-2800 roars. The aircraft accelerates. Behind him, a 109 pilot lines up his shot. Perfect deflection. He fires a long burst, 20mm cannon rounds, and 7.92mm machine gun bullets hammer into Johnson's P-47. Johnson feels the impacts, solid, jarring thuds that shake the entire airframe. He's being hit a lot, but nothing happens. The bullets that should be tearing through his aircraft, that should be exploding his fuel tanks and shredding his control cables, are doing nothing. They're hitting that thick skin, that armor plate, those self-sealing tanks. Some punch through but don't hit anything critical. Others literally bounce off. The 109 pilot, Lieutenant Hans Röhrig, can't believe what he's seeing. He's fired over 200 rounds into this American fighter. He's hitting it. He can see the strikes, but it won't go down. It won't even smoke. And now it's pulling away. Johnson's P-47, accelerating in its dive, is now doing 480 miles per hour. The 109, maxed out at 430 miles per hour in a dive, simply cannot follow. Johnson doesn't turn and fight, he just leaves. The 109 pilot watches in frustration as his target disappears into the distance. Johnson levels out at 15,000 feet, checks his instruments. Everything is green. Oil pressure, good. Engine temperature, normal. Controls, responsive. He's just been hit by over 200 rounds, and his aircraft is fine. He's fine. When he lands back at base, the ground crew swarms his aircraft. They count the hits, 21 holes, 21 separate bullet impacts. The armor plate behind his seat has 3 distinct impact craters where 20mm cannon rounds hit and didn't penetrate. The bulletproof windscreen has 2 starred impacts but didn't shatter. One .50 caliber round from a friendly aircraft in the chaos hit his wing. It went clean through, in one side and out the other, without hitting anything important. Jesus Christ, Lieutenant, Chief Arcangeli says, running his hand over the damage. This thing is a flying tank. The report filters up through command. Similar stories are coming in from other P-47 units. Pilots are taking hits that would have downed any other fighter and flying home. One P-47 landed with 89 holes. Another came back with 3 feet of its wing missing, torn off by a direct flak burst, and the pilot hadn't even known until he landed. The Luftwaffe intelligence officers, who had written suitable target for new pilots to build confidence, are starting to revise their reports. But the revision comes too late for Lieutenant Franz Stigler. May 4, 1943, over Bremen. Stigler is a veteran, with 22 kills, flying a Focke-Wulf 190. He spots a lone P-47 below him. Perfect setup. He dives, positions himself perfectly, and opens fire from 300 yards. His 4 20mm cannons and 2 machine guns pour shells into the American fighter. He sees the hits, dozens of them. The P-47 should be tumbling out of the sky in flames. Instead, it rolls, hard. A barrel roll executed with a violence that shocks Stigler. The P-47's roll rate, aided by its enormous ailerons, is phenomenal. Faster than the Focke-Wulf 190s. The American is now behind him. Before Stigler can react, 8 .50 caliber machine guns open up. The volume of fire is apocalyptic. Stigler's F-Wolf 190 shudders as round after round tears through it. The cockpit canopy shatters. The instrument panel explodes. Stigler feels a sharp pain in his leg. He's been hit. He breaks off, diving away, barely maintaining control of his shredded aircraft. He manages to crash land in a field. As medics pull him from the wreckage, his only thought is, what the hell was that? His after-action report, filed from the hospital, is terse. Attacked P-47, no effect. Counter-attack, devastating. Aircraft total loss. Request reassessment of P-47 threat level. The reassessment comes swiftly. By June 1943, Luftwaffe tactical briefings have completely reversed course. Pilots are now warned that the P-47's durability is extremely high, requiring multiple hits for a kill, and to assume armor protection everywhere. The firepower is identified as a severe threat, with 8 heavy machine guns making frontal attacks suicidal. Most critically, German pilots are told that the P-47's dive speed is superior to all German aircraft, and that it cannot be caught in a dive. The new tactics emphasize avoiding prolonged engagement, and specifically warn pilots not to attempt to dive away from a P-47. Instead, climbing attacks from below are now preferred. The threat level has been upgraded to high, with experienced pilots only recommended for engagement. The joke fighter wasn't a joke anymore. It was becoming something the Luftwaffe had never expected to fear, an aircraft they couldn't kill. June 26, 1943. The sky over Saint-Omer, France. Lieutenant Colonel Hub Zemke leads the 56th Fighter Group at 28,000 feet, escorting B-17 Seine B-17. Below, Focke-Wulf 190s circle like sharks, waiting to strike. The German pilots are confident. The Focke-Wulf 190 is one of the finest fighters in the world. Fast, powerful, deadly. Zemke sees them. He makes a decision that will change air combat forever. Thunderbolts. Push over. We're going through them. 20 P-47 Sains point their noses down in unison. They stay together, a flying wedge of 7-ton American steel accelerating toward the Germans at terrifying speed. The P-47 Sains blow through the German formation like a freight train through a picket fence. The speed differential is so extreme the Germans barely have time to react. Zemke's 850 caliber guns light up. A 190 disintegrates. His wingman gets another. The formation keeps diving, accelerating past 500 miles per hour. The Germans who try to dive away discover the horrible truth: the P-47 is faster, much faster. American pilots close on their targets, fire devastating bursts, and watch German fighters tumble from the sky. At 15,000 feet, Zemke calls for the zoom climb. The P-47 Sains pull up, their massive engines roaring, converting speed back into altitude. They climb at 3,000 feet per minute, impossible for German fighters to match. By the time the surviving Focke-Wulfs reorganize, the Americans are back at 25,000 feet. The Germans have lost 7 aircraft. Not a single P-47 has been touched. This is the new reality. This is boom and zoom. The tactic is devastatingly simple. Start high. Dive to build speed. Make one high-speed pass. Zoom climb back to altitude. Repeat. Never turn. Never slow down. Never fight on the enemy's terms. The P-47 was built for this. Its weight, its power, its speed all come together. The Germans can't catch it in a dive. They can't follow it in a climb. They can only die. Captain Walter Mahring describes the impact. We stopped being afraid. With the jug and boom and zoom, we controlled everything. We chose when to fight. We chose when to leave. The Germans were just targets. By September 1943, P-47 groups have perfected the tactic. They develop variations, but the core remains. Use the P-47's advantages. Avoid its weaknesses. Never turn with a German fighter. The Luftwaffe tries to adapt, staying low, using clouds for cover, attacking with overwhelming numbers. Nothing works. The mathematics of energy fighting favor the Americans too heavily. German ace Adolf Galland writes, "The P-47 pilots fought according to a system. This made them predictable, but nearly impossible to defeat. We could anticipate their tactics, but couldn't counter them. The frustration was maddening. The kill ratios tell the story." By the end of 1943, P-47 units achieve better than 4-to-1 kill ratios. For every jug lost, 4 or more German fighters are shot down. But the P-47's greatest contribution is still to come. March 1944. Allied air superiority is nearly complete. German fighters are being systematically destroyed. But on the ground, the German army still fights. Those ground forces need to be weakened before D-Day. Enter the P-47 in its second, even more terrifying role: ground attack fighter. The same qualities that make the Jug unkillable in air combat make it ideal for ground attack. The armor, the rugged airframe, the powerful engine. A Spitfire hit by anti-aircraft fire is finished. A P-47 keeps coming. The ordnance load is staggering. 500-pound bombs, 1,000-pounders, napalm, 10 5-inch rockets, and still 850 caliber machine guns. A fully loaded P-47 carries up to 2,500 pounds of ordnance, more than many bombers. German ground forces learn a new sound they come to dread: the roar of the R-2800 engine, followed by explosions of bombs and rockets, then the buzzsaw howl of 50 caliber guns. The P-47 doesn't just attack, it devastates. Lieutenant Colonel Francis Gabreski leads 12 P-47s against German train yards near Paris. They come in low. The Germans don't know they're there until bombs start falling. The train yard erupts. Locomotives explode. Rail cars detonate in chain reactions. The P-47s make pass after pass. When they leave, the entire facility is a smoking crater. 37 locomotives destroyed, over 200 rail cars obliterated. Mission report, light flak encountered, no aircraft lost. This becomes the pattern. P-47S hunting across Europe, tank columns destroyed, airfields strafed, bridges dropped, supply depots burning. The German war machine faces tactical air power on an unprecedented scale, and the P-47 survives. Again and again, Captain Robert Johnson is hit by 20mm flak over France. The shell tears a 3-foot hole in his wing. Fuel streams out. The aircraft shudders, wants to die. Johnson fights it. The P-47 stays together. Self-sealing tanks do their job. Flight controls still respond. He nurses it back across the channel and lands it. Ground crew is stunned. "Sir, how is this thing still flying?" Johnson looks at the wreckage. Because it's a jug. Stories multiply. P-47S returning with tail sections barely attached. 5 feet of wing missing. 3 cylinders blown off the engine. Still flying. This knowledge creates fearlessness. P-47 pilots press attacks others would break off. They fly into flak that would deter other aircraft. They come back again and again. General Feldmarschall Rommel writes to Hitler, "The enemy's fighter bombers, particularly the P-47, have made daytime movement nearly impossible. Even when we hit them, they continue and often escape. Our troops feel helpless, hunted." By D-Day, P-47 groups have crippled German mobility in France. The Luftwaffe barely appears. German reinforcements are destroyed on roads. The invasion succeeds partly because the P-47 created an aerial blockade. The Germans cannot break. After the war, German commanders are asked what weapon they feared most. Many answer the P-47 Thunderbolt, not because it was most advanced, but because it was everywhere, carried enormous firepower, and couldn't be stopped. April 1945. Germany is collapsing. A captured German pilot, Oberleutnant Heinrich Baer, with over 200 kills, sits with American intelligence. They ask about the fighters he faced. The Spitfire, excellent. The P-51, the best all-around fighter. And the P-47. Baer pauses. The Thunderbolt was the fighter I feared most. Not because it was best traditionally, but because fighting it was pointless. We couldn't catch it. We couldn't kill it. And if we made one mistake, we died. It made our skills irrelevant. That is the ultimate defeat for a fighter pilot. This is the final verdict on the P-47. It didn't win by being elegant. It won by being unkillable, powerful, American. Final statistics. 15,636 produced. Over 3,750 enemy aircraft destroyed in air combat. Kill ratio of approximately 4.6 to 1. But the most important, the survival rate. P-47 pilots had the highest chance of completing their tour and going home. The jug brought them home. Robert S. Johnson completes his tour with 27 kills, all in P-47S. His final aircraft has the words, "This airplane saved my life." Hub Zemke's 56th Fighter Group becomes the highest scoring in Europe. Over 1,000 victories. Their motto, "We build men and destroy machines." Francis Gabreski becomes top American ace in Europe with 28 kills. His assessment, "It was tough, reliable, forgiving. It let me make mistakes and survive." In war, that's everything. After the war, Kurt Tank, designer of the Focke-Wulf 190, examines a P-47. The P-47 represents a different approach. "We built fighters to be efficient. The Americans built it to win, regardless of efficiency. They had the resources to make it strong, so they did. It's not elegant, but it's devastatingly effective." That is the American way of war. The pilots, who once hated it, ended the war differently. Many requested to keep flying P-47S. Pilots, who flew both, said, "I'd rather be hit in a jug." The nickname remained, but the meaning changed. No longer mockery, affection, recognition of toughness, reliability, refusal to quit. Historians debate which was the best fighter of World War II. But when pilots are asked which fighter they'd want in actual combat, when someone is shooting at them, the answer is often the P-47 Thunderbolt. Oh! Because the P-47 proved a fundamental truth: tough beats pretty, survival beats elegance, power beats finesse. Sometimes, the joke everyone laughs at becomes the weapon everyone fears. The P-47 started as the fighter nobody wanted. It ended as the fighter that brought more American pilots home alive than any other. The Luftwaffe stopped laughing. The milk jug, the flying bathtub, the 7-ton beast, the P-47 Thunderbolt, the joke that won the war. The final laugh belonged to the jug. It always did.